Hey guys, colleges and universities are failing our youth and the taxpayer. Let's get into it. Now, you would think that it was kind of up to colleges to produce students who actually can function in society and think critically and be able to work, all the modern jobs out there and be able to, fulfill a life of success and be able to actually do some basic finances. You would think that colleges and universities would be able to produce that kind of quality product in our youth. But unfortunately, that is not the case. All right, in a previous video, I talked about why I went to college, and that was to obviously make more money in my life. Now, many people go to college and they go there maybe for the experience, but to be honest, we've got a problem on our hands, and it's called student debt. And obviously with the Trump administration, they don't seem to want to allow for student debt forgiveness. All right, so let's talk about that. And let's talk about all these TikTok videos and maybe YouTube videos here and there where you've got a quote unquote educated person going on YouTube or going on TikTok and crying about the fact that their student loans haven't even touched the principal. All the payments they've been making have not even touched the principal. And I think that that's a big problem, and it's kind of due to the universities and the colleges, to be frank. Wouldn't you think that they would be producing a student who could actually understand what a repayment plan is for a financial instrument, aka a student loan? We've all had financial instruments we've used, like mortgages or auto loans, or maybe a boat loan, a home equity line of credit, so on and so forth. All of those loans, they come back with a repayment period, right? Now, I never had a student loan. I'll fully disclose that. However, I did look up into the student loan application process and the repayment process. And it looks like it's kind of just this, crazy, weird way of repaying a loan back. Okay, I don't understand why they're doing this. Okay, they have this income-based repayment plan. All right, that's not how you do things in the real world. That's not how we repay back a mortgage. You know what happens when you get a 30-year fixed mortgage? You get what's called an amortization table. Okay, it's a table of all the payments you're going to make. 360 of them, guys. 360 payments. This is 7 pages worth of all the payments I have to make. And I've got my signature here on this paper that I signed for, and I have to pay back, $450,000 on a loan for 30 years for the rest of my life. And that's what you're doing too when it comes to student loans. And unfortunately, the colleges didn't tell you that this was going to happen, that this was your future, was 8 pages of payments. That is the reality you need to understand. And so I think it's a disservice by these universities and colleges that if you're using student loans to pay for college, it should be required before you even start a class that you have to take a finance class and actually understand what this is. And understand that if you paid more on the principal, the time period would be shorter. You would have a smaller amortization table. Maybe it'd only be 5 pages instead of 8. Like a 30-year fixed mortgage, I've got one here. And these orange lines are all the months that I'm ahead of this 30-year fixed mortgage. You know why? Because I pay extra on this mortgage because I want to get rid of it. Okay? I don't want to be sitting there with this super large principal balance in 20 years. I want to pay it off quicker. And that's the way you need to look at student loans. And if you have this amortization table when you start the process, you may think twice about getting an art degree for $100,000 because you may not be able to pay it back. and you'll be stuck in debt for the rest of your life. Okay? One thing I also recommend is if you get this amortization table, they won't give it to you, by the way. If you go to the bank that is servicing your loan, you should ask for one of these. Okay, you should ask for 3 of them to be exact. You should ask for a 30-year repayment plan for your student loan, a 20-year, and a 10-year. Okay, maybe even a 5-year. You could go as far as that if you want to know how much it's going to take from a monthly perspective to get your loan out of your way in your life. And I'm doing the same thing with my mortgage. Okay, I've got 3 printouts here. I keep them handy just in case I want to actually accelerate my payment plan on my mortgage. I've got this chart here. I went to like wallethub.com. I just Googled this stuff, you know, paying extra on a mortgage to pay it off early. I've got, if I pay here $500 extra a month, I reduce my mortgage by 7 years and 7 months. And then I took one for $1,000 extra a month. I reduced the payment by 11 years. Now I'm down to a 20-year mortgage. And then I have a third one here. I think it's, let's see here. Sorry. $1,500 extra a month on my mortgage. I reduced the payment by 14 years and 6 months. This is what you need to do for your student loans. And you would think that colleges and universities would actually make you take a course to get these 3 printouts before you get started doing your art degree for $100,000, or your English major for $100,000, or your political science degree for $100,000, because that's what it is. You know, when I went to school, I think after 4 years, I think my parents paid for my college, so I'll fully disclose that. It was around $40,000, and that is about 1 year's salary back in 2002. I was making $40,000 a year, 1 year's salary. That's what it cost. And now today, most student loans are what? $70,000, $80,000. And most college graduates are probably making between $60,000 and $70,000 for a real degree. A degree that you can actually make some money in, like engineering, like chemistry, like computer science, like marketing, business. You know, I don't know exactly if those are as good, but you know, they're out there. So be aware of this, you know. And if you've already got your degree, you've got a job maybe, hopefully you do, and you're wondering why your principal isn't going down, it's probably because you're on one of these income-based plans that has an infinite amortization table. All right, it's got an infinite amortization table where you will never pay it off. You need to take a step back and build your own amortization table and build a new payment for your student loan. Because quite frankly, I don't see them ever going into forgiveness. You could get lucky. Maybe the next administration will be, you know, on the left and they'll somehow get it passed to where you'll get rid of those loans, but don't count on it, okay? Take your future into your own hands and make these printouts and pay the extra payments you need to pay on the student loans and get them out of your hair. They're not going anywhere, unfortunately. My mortgage isn't going anywhere. I am slave to the lender. Okay, I've got to work for the rest of my life or pay extra and not go and blow my money on a Tesla or, you know, go on a lavish trip. Okay, you have to live within your means, and that's what you're going to have to do with your student loans. I know, it's not fun. It sucks. The universities have failed you, to be quite frank. They really have. They even failed me at the end of the day. I never took these finance classes and had any clue about this. I fortunately had the common sense to actually understand these things. Like when I got my first car loan, when I was in college, by the way, I got this amortization schedule printed because I wanted to know how long I had to pay on this car. And I've gotten one ever since. Every car I've gotten, I get this printout. Every mortgage I've gotten, you get this printout. Typically, most title companies will give you this amortization schedule. If they don't, if it's not in your paperwork, make sure you get it, okay? And make sure you get it for all the student loans that you have. Go to your banks and go get these amortization schedules. Get 4 of them, like I said. So anyways, I know it's a little bit of a rant. You know, I'm kind of annoyed and frustrated with colleges. But, you know, the other thing that's annoying and frustrating is that you get these people whining and complaining who are, quote unquote, supposed to be educated, supposed to do critical thinking. You're an adult now. You graduated college. You have a keyboard and a computer. You can learn how this stuff works. You can learn how finance works, personal finance, if a college doesn't force you to take it. Okay? They don't do it today. It's up to you, you know. Now, I think that if they do end up doing loans in the future, I think that colleges should require this type of education before you even get started. You have to take this class so that you can decide, oh, do I want to go into debt for 30 plus years? Because that's what it's going to take to pay off a student loan these days, whether it's 70, 80, 100 grand. It's going to take 30 years, like a mortgage, or it's going to take 20 years if you pay extra. So hopefully this video helps. You know, I know it's kind of a hot topic these days. There's a little bit of politics involved in it these days, but at the end of the day, it's a loan. Okay, you're going to have to pay it back. And colleges and universities, they're never going to teach you this problem here because they want your money. And that's the bottom line. They're taking advantage of the taxpayer, us, okay? And they're going to take all the money they can get, and they're going to keep raising tuition year after year after year because we keep giving out this money and not having any rules as far as like, hey, maybe we should force students to take a class so that they can maybe decide not to do it, okay? Because sometimes it's a trap from these universities. So anyways, hopefully you guys like the content. If you do, like and subscribe, and take a look at my previous video if you could, and let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this whole student loan problem. So anyways, you guys have a good day, and thanks.